Hi, I'm Red Stegall. Welcome to Stockshow Confidential. We're going to take a look at the role of youth in America's agriculture. And to take us on this wonderful journey and tell us all the stories is the host of our show, Mr. Terry Jordan. Terry, it's all yours, cowboy.
Thanks, Red. We're going to take an inside look at the stock show circuit. We're going to talk with some of the top judges and top breeders in the country and offer you a very special section each and every week called Tips from the Vet. And with just a little luck, we hope to see you in the winner's circle. On this week's edition of Stock Show Confidential, we're going to explore the extremely competitive world of show goats. We'll take you to Odessa, Texas for the first stock show of the year. We'll also make another stop in San Angelo, Texas, where we'll hear from two of the top goat judges in the country. We're also going to bring you a very heartwarming story about a very special young lady who's an inspiration to many. Our Tips from the Vet segment will focus on a common ailment that can be prevented and much, much more. You know, a stock show is more than just a weekend event, a ride on the Ferris wheel or cotton candy. Hi, I'm Terry Jordan, your host. For some, it's a go buckle, the dream of a grand championship. But it's also about months and years of preparation, learning the value of caring for an animal, being a humble winner, and a gracious loser. It's about responsibility, a solid handshake, and a sense of honor. We're here to make you a better showman and to make you just a little more comfortable and confident in that show ring. All the hard work and preparation that goes into making it to this point. We're actually at the stock show now. We've come out of the training ground, and as we make it into one of these major barns like this, you've got your animals just right. Now is the time where your showmanship ability is really going to come into play. And it's game time as we stop here and look at one of these top goats in the goat barn. You better have him at 12 o'clock. We're talking about having the finish just right as you reach down through here. Have him groomed just right. All the components that get you ready to take him from this stand and right into the show ring. There's a lot of good goats in the country, so you've got to make yours stand out, make him look just right, and really appeal to that judge.
Pay attention in the ring, be aware of where the judge is, and watch those older kids. Find out who you think does the best job, and watch them. Find you a role model, set that as your example of what you want to do, and just don't ever give up. Give it all you got.
I always try to tell young people that winning a grand championship is great, but winning showmanship is something special.
One of the best things we do is a district here in our district. We have a showmanship clinic here in the county that's for everybody in our district. And that gets other people, either agents or ag teachers, involved in actually hands-on helping those kids.
A couple of things to remember. Always walk your goat on a chain or a collar. Never use a leash. Always stay on the opposite side from the judge. Always change sides from the front of the goat. Never go behind him. When setting your goat or walking, keep a small distance between you and your animal so that the judge can get a better look. Keep your goat's head up and walk at a pace that allows him to show muscle expression. Try and keep your goat's front feet on the ground. Be aggressive, but don't overbrace the animal. You know, one of the important things to remember once you get to the stock show is keeping your goat hydrated. And the easiest way to do that is by using a drench gun. You can always monitor the exact amount of liquid that the goat is getting to take.
As far as drenching an animal, it's based on dehydration and or that feel. And we try to manage our animals that when we get to the show that we don't have a wreck when we get here. So it starts at home. If you have those animals on the correct water and the correct feed and you've got a feel on them before you leave, I wish we could say it was an exact science, but a lot of it is just trial and error and going to the show and learning.
We'll also make another stop in San Angelo, Texas, where we'll hear from two of the top goat judges in the country. We're also going to bring you a very heartwarming story about a very special young lady who's an inspiration to many.
We had a lot of mixed emotions about my daughter showing goats, having to adapt the scooter. She doesn't use her wheelchair here. It's just not very conducive to that. But she wanted to try it and see if it was her thing because it's certainly a family activity for us.
Show Confidential is brought to you by the following sponsors: Sullivan Show Supply and Stockshow University, SureChamp, Showmaster Feeds, StockShowConfidential.com, Rogers Ford, and Paragon Bed Covers.
Sullivan Show Supply was established with the vision of producing more than just your ordinary show supply products. Whether it's fitting supplies you're looking for or the latest equipment, everything you need to make it into the winner's circle is right here. Don't just take it from me, take it from them. Sullivan Show Supply will be here before and after the sale.
Over 30 years ago, I had the opportunity to show my very first Grand Champion animal. And the values that I learned from that, I still hold very dear today. And being able to pass that legacy on to my children, watching them grow up and showing 4-H and FFA is something that brought us closer as a family. You know, just picture this. Parents and kids jumping in a truck, driving 300 miles to a stock show. The things that you talk about will make memories that'll last a lifetime. There's a lot's been said about the values of junior livestock showing, and I agree with that. It teaches discipline, self-respect, good sportsmanship, and good family values.
One of the most important things stock showing has done for us is it's brought us together as a family. My husband farms, and so he's a workaholic, and then I had a full-time business, and when we just hit the road and when we're out there in the barns together, hashing it out or hanging from the, shoveling or whatever we do out there, it's just saved our lives.
This whole stock show industry, the lambs, the goats, the pigs, everything, every time there's an animal in that ring, there's a family behind that that's pushing that and working together.
And the more serious they get, as long as the money is like it is at the major shows, I think you're just going to see this thing continuously get better like the sheep and the steers. And I don't think in my mind there's any doubt that it's headed that way.
And we've enjoyed it and appreciated it, and we think it's a big part of this rural way of life that we enjoy.
And seeing the kind of kids that raise these animals and the dedication that they have really kind of made me fall in love with the cause.
But this whole enterprise is about the 4-H and FFA kids.
That's what's important. The winning's not important. The making the money's not important. We don't do it to make money. We do it to have quality family time together. And it pays dividends. You see a great kid having a great time.
I met a family this season that really touched my heart. Their daughter was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy at the age of 18 months. Muscular dystrophy is a neuromuscular disease that affects over 1 million people in America. At the age of 11, she was confined to a wheelchair. And at 17, she has not let an obstacle stand in her way of competing in the show ring. Her brother Colin is there to lend a helping hand, and her dad Cody knows the value of a family activity. Let's take a look.
We had a lot of mixed emotions about my daughter showing goats, having to adapt the scooter. She doesn't use her wheelchair here. It's just not very conducive to that. But she wanted to try it and see if it was her thing because we try to do this. It's a family activity. I don't know if you'd call it a sport, but it's certainly a family activity for us.
My whole family on both sides has stock showed for years, and my dad's cousin Kyle Alcorn finally talked me into it this year.
With my older sister Kami, me and her can go play basketball and pass the football and everything, and me and Kiva really can't do stuff like that, obviously, and so we have a lot of fun helping each other out and stuff and high-fiving each other when we do good and things like that, and we both enjoy it quite a bit.
It's hard when you have a special needs child to make sure that you're not excluding them or the other kids. There's some people that might have different lifestyles or different values than you do, but for the most part, you get in the stock barns, and it's good family values, good people, you know, and we like the people we're around, the friendships that you make through the years, and that's why my oldest daughter's here. She took off to be here. She didn't want to miss out on a family activity with us.
I started about 4 years ago with pigs because my granddad raises show pigs, my granddad and uncle. My granddad had always gotten on to my dad for not letting me show at a younger age, and my dad said that whenever I was old enough and could do it, that would be fine if I had an interest in it.
My son is the driving force. You know, we'll sit here and roll into these majors. I've tried to impress on him how much it costs every time we pull out of the driveway in meals and motels and gas. But it's really hard to put a price or a value on building family bonds and ties. My son and I will travel. We may not speak for an hour and a half, but just being there together, you know, you build those relationships and you build those bonds, and he'll come and ask me things I'd have never talked to my dad about, you know, and if I can keep that relationship and keep that bond going, well then it's worth spending a little money on some animals. I think it gives a lot of family footing and a basis that you can't always control everything your kids do, but if we can give them a good background and a good foundation to go back to, well then hopefully it'll help make some tough decisions a little easier on down the road for them.
This last year, we taught Kiva into showing goats, and so we've got 4 goats now for her to show, and I go out there and hook up the goats to the scooter for her. She has a lot of homework or doesn't feel real good and is tired and stuff, and so I don't mind doing that for her. But most of the time, she's out there with me every day, doing just as much as she can, pouring the feed for me and all that sort of stuff.
I'll feed, but that's not Daddy's job to feed and take care of the animals. I mean, that's their deal. But I don't know of a family that you can just turn the kids out and say, okay, the kids are on their own. It's got to be a family activity, and you've all got to work together on it.
Feed the bugs. When you feed your cows, a well-functioning rumen with a healthy population of good bacteria and fungi is the foundation of a profitable cow herd. So how do you unlock the potential of the rumen? With Amifirm. Amifirm is a natural feed additive that fortifies products like VitaFirm and SureChamp. Best of all, research shows it actually increases beneficial bug populations by 15%. VitaFirm, SureChamp, and Amifirm. This stuff is good.
Be sure and check out StockshowConfidential.com. Now, if you have an interesting story or a picture, we'd like to hear from you. And coming very soon, the Breeders' Corner. We'll have the top goat, lamb, pig, and steer breeders in the country listed there. Check it out. Always remember, every show is just a little bit different. Each judge will see something different in each animal. Have fun and show the judge that you really enjoy what you're doing, and regardless of the outcome, be sure and shake his hand at the end of the class and tell him thanks for the job that he does. Let's hear from 2 of the top judges in the show goat circuit about what they're looking for in a champion.
What we're looking for when we're trying to figure out what goats are our top end goats, looking for muscle and structure and balance. What we're actually handling is the loin-eye muscle, or the longissimus dorsi. That muscle lays right in beside the spine, and so we'll reach down and we'll put our fingers here and start to roll that finger over that edge of that muscle. And that gives us some idea of how large that muscle is right there in this region that we call the rack. As we work our way back, we want this goat to get wider, generating more muscle and product as we work back into his hip, but a goat that should be really wide across his loin from the last rib to the point of his hip would be considered our loin area. This is also an area that we look for in terms of freshness and handle in an animal. When it feels soft and has that fresh feeling to it, that goat has some moisture in them. But when they're stale and they're dry and that top kind of crackles a little bit, that goat's getting stale. You're not going to have as high quality of a product as what you do when you've got a goat that's a little fresh. We can see how much shape and how much muscle definition this goat works out of his hip. We want that goat to be very square from his hooks back into his pins. We also want these goats to be very wide from stifle to stifle. We want that thickness and that bulge and shape to those goats' legs. Also, we're looking for depth in this goat's twist. We want that goat to have a lot of thickness and fullness there. We want these goats to be very wide up through their chest floor. We also want some shape in this forearm muscle. We also want to handle this goat right behind his shoulder, right over his rib cage. And we're looking here at fat thickness and fat deposition. We want to be able to feel that goat's rib, but we don't want it to just feel like a rug board in a manner of speaking, because we want some freshness in this goat. So he's certainly going to have a little bit of condition or fat. Those are just two interchangeable terms there that we can look at. But we don't want these animals overly conditioned, overly fat, because that's going to take away from some product in this animal. Then we want to step off these goats and look at them in terms of their eye appeal and their profile. We want that neck to come right off the top of that shoulder and come straight up, that head to be level, smooth over the point of that shoulder, level down their top line. Especially we're starting to get more and more critical on these goats of being more level out through their hip. Now we don't expect these goats to be perfectly level out of their hip. Just the nature of their design, they're going to lend to some slope. Then we want that goat to be very balanced and square on his feet and legs. We want him to set his feet down on the corners of his body. When we get him behind this goat, you can see how square his hocks are. A goat that's very straight off of those legs. We want him to have some bend and some flex here in this hock. And at the same time, when we get down in here in the pastern, we want that goat to be up on this pastern. We don't want these dew claws to be down near the ground. If that foot starts to rock back, the dew claw gets close to touching the ground, that can certainly be an issue in terms of soundness. From that point, we just try to go through and analyze this goat, from front to back, work ourselves from the ground up, really look at everything in terms of muscle, again, in terms of eye appeal, structure and balance, all those type things that we're looking for that ideal animal. But more importantly, again, we have to maintain our focus on muscle, because this is meat goat industry, and something that we have to really look close at when we're looking in terms of selecting that animal that most suits our industry in terms of the meat goat product.
You're watching Stock Show Confidential, and we'll be right back.
It's often said that great design takes something ordinary and turns it into something extraordinary. A Paragon truck bed cover is functional, tough, and visually appealing, all at the same time, and yet we haven't sacrificed a single detail in designing and making it.
Whenever we hit the trail to go to a major stock show, we trust everything that we own is protected by a Paragon bed cover. Anyone that's raised show goats has probably heard of urinary calculi, a condition very similar to kidney stones in humans. Now, urinary calculi develops in the goat's urinary tract, and if not treated, can become serious very quickly. Now, if your goat is pinned up and consumes large amounts of concentrates and is limited on their water intake, this could happen to your goat. Let's hear from a vet and see what he says about this potentially deadly condition.
Urinary calculi is a common problem we see in show goats. Sometimes you may have seen it referred to as water belly or urolithiasis. Well, what happens in these goats that have this disorder is you've got the bladder, which holds the urine, and you've got a tube called the urethra, which is where the urine escapes the body from. And when they have this condition, they accumulate stones in the bladder, and as these stones will sometimes become lodged in the urethra, or this tube, at two different spots. One spot is called the sigmoid flexure, and the other spot is called the urethral process, which is right at the tip.
How do I know my goat has it? How do I know if my goat has urinary calculi?
The way you'll know if your goat has this condition is, number one, you may go out to feed him that morning, he might not want to eat. Number two, you may hear him groaning. or kicking at his belly. And one of the last conditions you can see is he may be even straining to urinate. If he's doing that, you may see drips of blood and or urine in the pen. If you see any of these signs or conditions, this is the time you need to call your veterinarian and get him involved in the situation, because this can progress real quickly.
How do I treat urinary calculi?
Once it's been established that your goat does have urinary calculi and your veterinarian's there, here's some of the things that he may do. He may drench your animal with some ammonium chloride, and what that will do is help in dissolving some of these stones that are in the bladder. If you've already got stones lodged there and we've got a lot of pain going on, he may be giving some anti-inflammatories and some smooth muscle relaxants, which will help dislodge these stones. The other thing that can be done is if one of the stones is lodged at the very tip, that he may surgically remove the tip of the urethral process.
How do I prevent urinary calculi?
The reason this is an ongoing problem is a lot of these goats are castrated at an early age, but there's things that you can do to offset this problem. Number one, you can have good, fresh, cool water available to the goats at all times. It would be a good idea even to dump your water trough and give them fresh water every day. The other thing you can do, contain adequate amounts of calcium and phosphorus, ammonium chloride, and salt. These three elements in a ration are very important. I would suggest checking with your nutritionist and your feed store to be sure that you have a properly well-balanced ration. If you'd like to learn more about urinary calculi, you can go to StockshowConfidential.com. I'm Dr. Bobby Cobb, and you've been watching Tips from the Vet.
Don't forget to thank those that helped along the way. And remember, happy goats are healthy goats. Have fun and enjoy the fastest growing market in the nation. In the coming weeks, we're going to take you across the country to look at steers, pigs, lambs, and goats. And until next time, here's hoping that we'll see you in the winner's circle.
This is your reserve grand champion goats.
Be sure and check out StockshowConfidential.com. Now, if you have an interesting story, we'd like to hear about it. And also be sure and check out our Breeders' Corner. We have the top goat, pig, lamb, and steer breeders listed there. Check it out.